The world doesn't care about your feeling. It only respects results. Every kingdom, every army, every business, every team has levels. That's not oppression, that's order. That's the law. Weak people cry. We're all equal. Strong people laugh because they know equality only exists in theory. In practice, there are levels to everything. You don't put a soldier next to a general. You don't put a child in a ring with a champion. You don't put a lazy mind next to a machine that works 18 hours a day. Because energy infects, vibration spreads. And when you surround yourself with the lower frequencies, you drop to their level before they ever rise to yours. You want to know why you're stuck? Because you keep working with the people who talk about dreams instead of bleeding for it. You keep hanging around with people who worship comfort more than purpose. You keep asking the blind to guide you to the mountain. Life punishes that stupidity. You cannot rise if you're tied to the dead weight of mediocrity. The reason there are ranks in life is because not everyone deserves access to you. If you've been building through storms, wars, heartbreak, and pain, you've earned a higher place. If you build something from zero, you earn respect. But if you keep giving time, energy, and trust to people who haven't earned it, and that's why your life bleeds over and over and over again. You can't shop surrounded by dull blades. You can't drive in surrounded by dreamers who never execute. You can't stay hungry sitting at tables where no one's starving anymore. That's why God built levels to separate the worthy from the weak ones. Try to work with a loser and you'll see what hell feels like. He'll question every move, every dream, every decision you make because it reminds him of what he never did. He'll whisper poison into your ambition because your fire makes him feel small. You tell him your plan, he calls it unrealistic. You tell him your timeline, he calls it way too fast. You tell him your discipline, he calls it obsession. And that's when you know you're dealing with a slave of mediocrity. They've been programmed to believe effort is ignorance and results are luck. They envy the life you're building but won't admit it. So they'll try to delay you, distract you, and drain your energy. They'll joke about your goals, mock your focus, and tempt you with comfort and distraction. They want you soft, not strong. They want you ordinary, not dominant. Because if you rise too high, they'll have to look in the mirror and see how little they've done. And here's the truth. Weak men are allergic to accountability. They blame, gossip, and make excuses. They spend more time explaining failure than fixing it. You give them an opportunity, I'm guarantee you they'll waste it. You give them trust, they will abuse it. You give them loyalty, they vanish in an instant. You cannot win with these people, I promise you, because they don't want to win themselves. They want to feel good, not to be great. And when you build beside them, your structure or your business will collapse. You cannot build skyscraper with men who think like tents. There's a reason armies have ranks. There's also a reason sports have divisions. There's a reason the top 1% exist and the rest are spectators. Anarchy isn't evil, it's the nature of humanity. The lion leads the hunt not because of ego, but because of proof he is the king of the jungle. The alpha male isn't chosen by talk. He's chosen by survival and the things he went through when no one sees it. That's the same law in business, money, and legacy. The man who builds earns authority. The man who sacrifices earns command. The man who bleeds earns respect. But in today's world, everyone thinks they deserve the same level of respect without the same level of suffering or going through the pain. They want the king treatment with peasant effort. They want a result without responsibility. They wanted loyalty, but they don't know leadership. Life doesn't work like that. You position in the hierarchy is determined by the proof you have done, not your potential by result. That's why when we work, I don't ask who is nice. I ask, what have you done? What is your resume? And what have you achieved in your life out of many years? I don't care how old you are, what age are you, but what have you accomplished in life? Show me your resume, your result, the things that you went through, and the things you have achieved. Because nowadays, talk is free, but your proof is priceless. If you're not performing, you're not my equal, period. That's not ignorance, that's an order. The world runs smoother when everyone knows their place and work to rise together. You wanted to climb, right? Then earn your stripes in your rank. You want the respect from others? Then prove that you're consistent. You want to sit at the high table? Then you must bring values that feeds the room that everyone can respect you from what you have achieved, not talked about. Ego is the disease of the unsuccessful. It's the invisible chain that blinds weak men to mediocrity. They cannot learn because they think they already know. They cannot grow because they refuse correction. They cannot follow because they mistaken guidance for control. That's why they'll stay where they are forever and forever, repeating, I know, with nothing to show. You cannot teach the ignorant. You cannot save the stubbornness. They'll drown before they'll ever admit that they cannot swim. That's why I never waste energy arguing with small mindset of people. You cannot explain the mountain to someone who never left the ground. The man who humbles himself to learn becomes unstoppable. But the man who thinks he knows everything dies standing still. Ego whispers, "You already great," but discipline replies, "Prove it again, do it again, and you must master it no matter what it takes." That's the difference between a top performer and a delusional failure. The top performer kills his ego every morning before it kills him. He doesn't need validation, he needs progress. Ego keeps people stuck in fake superiority. They act like kings online but fold like peasants in reality. They can dress rich but think poor. They can talk power but lack proof. And when they meet someone actually living what they pretended to be, they feel threatened because they are so small and scared and insecure behind the closed door in the little version of themselves. That's why they gossip, losers. That's why they envy, they're losers. And that's why they hate, because they are losers. Because deep down, they know you are what they'll never be. You want to know the difference between real or the difference between the top and the average. It's not intelligence, it's not luck. It's consistency under pressure. Anyone can post motivation, but few can live it daily. Anyone can chase dreams for a month, but few can survive 5 years of silence, rejection, and pain. Discipline is what separates God from mortals, because consistency is the faith made physical. When you keep working, when nobody claps, when nobody watches, when nobody cares, guess what? Heaven and God notice you. God doesn't bless the man who wishes. God blesses the man who endures. God blesses the man who prays and performs. God also blesses the man who shows gratitude by building something with his every last breath. You want to be rewarded? Then earn your worth. You want to be successful? Then stop quitting when it hurts. Because do you think greatness is free? You never paid its price. There are no shortcuts. The longer route is the only route. The reward is not just the result, it's who you become along the way. Every repetition, every late night, every lonely day, write your name in the divine record in your history of your legacy. And one day, when you rise, the world will call it luck, but don't worry, because you know it was you after all, with your hard work and consistency and the time you have put in, and God will only reward the good ones. When you rise, I tell you this, every time you start losing people, not because you changed, but because you have evolved. The air at the top is thin for a reason. God doesn't allow the undisciplined to breathe there. You lose friends, many friends you're gonna lose, who cannot stand your focus. You also lose lovers who cannot match your purpose. You lose partners, even in business, who envy you rise instead of supporting it. Don't chase them. Don't need explanation. Do not apologize. You don't owe any small minds your energy. The same fire purifies golds. Success purifies your circle. Every level demands a new version of you and a smaller crowd. But remember this, you cannot save everyone. You can only inspire those who is willing to fight for themselves. Because when you try to pull the lazy, they will drag you down every time. When you share your vision with the blind, they will call you insane. When you hand bread to the ungrateful, they will complain about the flavor. So let God do the sorting. You focus on your mission, work with the lions and not sheeps. Walk with the killers, not complainers. Surround yourself with men who bled, failed, learned, and rise again. Because that's the law of life. You become who you walk with. If you walk with the kings, you learn how to rule the kingdom. If you walk with clowns, you'll die in your own circus. So stay sharp, stay strong, stay surrounded by greatness, because the world tries to drag you back down. Remember this. The climb is lonely, but the throne and the kingdom is very worth it.